Have you ever woken up from a dream feeling a deep sense of relief after refusing to eat, use, or make use of a food item, fruit, or ingredient, especially being offered to you by a family member, or maybe your former schoolmate, old acquaintances, colleagues, usually the one you are not so close to or friendly with? Now, in a council session, some time past, I firmly suggested to my audience to never take on messages from conflictual familiar egregores or acquaintances, such as former schoolmates, work colleagues, brother, sister, father, mother, aunt, uncle, siblings, extended family, as detrimental or spiritual attacks. Rather, these egregores figures are your personal sworn custodians that hold the truths necessary for your spiritual alignment, appeasement, and transcendence. The earlier analogy spoken of is an encoded Unso dream revelation, peculiar to Awu. The term Unso we suggest one may define as a personal habit allergic to one's spiritual makeup. Dear loved one, Unso is not necessarily a punishment to rebel or contend with, though the lived experience may prove troubling. We suggest to interpret one's Unso as a boundary of sorts, as every Awushi and Omunna is uniquely distinct, like the famed uniqueness of the human palm. This fine line, usually not so obvious or troubling to the unawakened being, but where this dormant reality be abruptly activated by one's higher self, the Shi. As it were a sleeper cell, so does your spiritual instincts, impulses, and intellect embodied in the Igbo word akonuche kick off, as it were one's spiritual allergic reactions to foods, habits not so long ago favored by your natural appetites. Now, this embargo is a typical Abu imprint of ownership, which will by phases demand certain cadres of purity, without which one may never operate at maximum capacity. One will discover in due phases a compromise in one's physical and astral bodies, as it were a real allergic reaction when one feeds on the same frequency as the general masses. The consequences shall be obvious. These are the contractual phase one's confrontational familiar spirits, beings, and egregores are bound to fulfill for one's alignment, appeasement, and spiritual restoration. It is necessary if one is to advance their core spiritual psyche to treat these phenomena as apparitions of one's shadow self. These most adversarial familiar beings or egregores will prove to be key porters, custodians that shall lead one to the Holy of Holies of the inner temple. It is important to come to the realization that every sense of separation whatsoever are just mere illusions. Let one's heart be light as a feather, gentle as the dove, yet as wise as a serpent in matters relating to familiar spirits, beings, or egregores. Much is to be revealed in future conversations relating to this phenomenon. It is to be noted that your Shi's favored advanced intelligences, such as your paternal, maternal, earth, water deities, and so forth, when activated to work with you by your higher self, which is your Shi, will never manifest as confrontational beings. Maka na mmụọ na-emelụ nwata ife adịghị emewa ya in my local parlance. Rather, they will employ your fears, grudges, feuds, conflictual past, and the likes as tools necessary, as it were refining of base metal through the fierce furnace, till there appears precious prize metals. For these will always serve to reveal one's shortcomings, miscalculations, and the vast gross errors that reside and take abode in one's subconscious and the unconscious mind. For the unexamined life is never worth living, and the shadow self, the more it is left ignored and suppressed, will find expression both in one's waking reality and astral realms perceived through dreams. To a lot of beginners, this message may sound contradictory in relation to the messages and programmings they have been receiving from spiritualists, pastors, DBS, and the rest. Even to some spiritualists, this message will be deemed an errant nonsense. However, one may only offer from their own well of enlightenment. As I am sworn to offer only an advice I have personally tried and seen through, so I am beholden to my Ogu and Ofo to review this, however controversial it may seem. Ma ọ bụkwa Ofo, ọ bụkwa Oyi in my local parlance. Now moving on. Let us observe a second dream analogy. Imagine one of your siblings, brother, sister, cousin visiting you with some groceries, food items in a dream. Now it appears he or she has gone through the trouble of doing some shopping for you, heavy one at that. You are quite surprised and elated, pleasantly gliding for such visits. Curiously, out of the whole list of food items you are certain you received in this dream encounter, in waking reality you could barely recall any, but just one or two of the items. Could be a fruit, spice, raw food such as rice, tomatoes, onions, carrots, butter, whatever it may be. You can only remember just one. Chances are that your abo have just unlocked one of your unsokos that pertains to you through this egregore. It is suggested one should gradually wean off ingesting making use of cooking with such items. It might be a healthy snack for all one could care for. They usually are. However, sooner or later, your Akonushe spiritual impulse, instinct, intellect shall and will insist on restricting you from such particular item. From my own personal spiritual practice and experience, I have discovered that if one adheres to being peaceful with such egregores, spirits or beings, one can absolutely for a fact negotiate one's unso terms, such as setting aside a day or two of the week dedicated to observing the unso pertaining to such food item. The word negotiated will not be overemphasized, especially if one deems it punitive, excessive, or humanly impossible, socially, financially, or otherwise, to observe such indefinitely. As earlier suggested, keeping a feather-like heart and gentle demeanor in matters of familiar beings and spirits and egregores shall prove to be of an exceptional profitable endeavor if one so chooses. Otherwise, if one as it were reckons to fight fire with fire, shall find this matter of grievous consequential decline, as shall be apparent in their waking reality of uneventful bad lucks, losses, ill health, and several disharmonious episodes. Now, here are signs you may watch out for whenever you consume, say, one or more of the items you come across in your dreams. This may help you decide for a fact that these are truly a forbidden item for your spiritual makeup. Number 1, your dreams become cloudy, chaotic, even impossible to remember. Chaotic in the sense that you will come about being in bitter, intense quarrels and fight with such familiar beings, spirits, or egregores, and in soul recurring dreams in fusion. Number 2, you experience unexplained financial dry spells right when you are at the verge of a breakthrough. Number 3, you find yourself wasting years of time and resources on projects and acquaintances that yield little or absolutely no results because your spiritual radar has been jammed. 4, you may suspect that you are being trifled with. Your spiritual instinct will keep flagging a spiritual theft is being worked on you. You might complain of destiny swapping and the likes. Now, let us pause here. Why I suggest we ruminate on these thoughts. Your offer carries little or no weight until you understand and learn